Hey guys, welcome back to the web design decal. This week in design, we're talking about dark design patterns, essentially what that is, although we'll get into it in more detail, of course, is designing so that what you create is intentionally bad or manipulative. Um, so yeah, let's get into it. This is a good video for you to watch. You should check it out in the slides after this, but basically it talks about how dark design is used in cities through benches and the reasons behind the design of benches being uncomfortable. And it's very interesting. It also is a very quick summary of things that we're going over today. So let's get a little bit technical and get into some definitions related to dark design. So defensive design is the practice of anticipating all possible ways that an end user could misuse a device and designing the device so as to make such misuse impossible or to minimize the negative consequences. So, for example, the video talks about how uncomfortable benches are used to make sure that people don't fall asleep in public for their own safety and kind of against homelessness. That's kind of controversial, but that is the purpose and intention behind them. And so people don't loiter in public places. And that would minimize the negative consequences of the sitting having the appearance of having a lot of people loitering around. Cities don't like that. But I'm sure there are other examples that you can think of. So then dark and unpleasant design, which is the title of the lecture, is a user interface that has been carefully crafted to trick users into doing things, such as buying insurance with their purchase or signing up for recurring bills. Basically, it's understanding what our expectations are and playing them against us so that we don't know what we're actually signing up for or what action we're really taking in an interface. But I feel like this definition is a little weak because this happens outside of user interfaces, well, screens and stuff. That phrase makes you think of screens, and can happen in many other things in daily life, and any product basically can use this same idea to be manipulative and be unethical and just terrible. So yeah, even more terms. Forced continuity. It's when your free trial with the service comes to an end and your credit card silently starts getting charged without any warning. In some cases, this was made even worse by making it difficult to cancel the membership. LinkedIn does this. I think Lululemon membership also does that. There are a lot of big companies that do this, and it's really sneaky and really awful. And I'm sure you have even run into them in your personal lives. It sucks. It's basically you're spending money that you didn't want to spend and you didn't know you were going to. Or it relies on the fact that you need to be incredibly vigilant about when your free trial is going to end. It's basically making you think something is free and then saying, actually, just kidding, it's not free. And also, it's making use of the fact that we have very busy lives and checking up on some random subscription or free trial that we may or may not have liked, and taking advantage of that kind of lack of thought or lack of time to focus on canceling it. And this often targets people who are the busiest and who it'll hurt the most. So then there's also bait and switch. That's to advertise a free or greatly reduced price product or service that is wholly unavailable or stocked in small quantities. After it is apparent that the product is no longer available, they are exposed to other priced products similar to the one advertised. So basically, people think that they'll get this thing for free without paying, but then they don't actually get it. All these terms you can look up more on your own. We're just touching on a bunch of different concepts on like things that you shouldn't do in design. So yeah, let's go through some asshole designs, which I think are definitely intentional and are also just meant to inconvenience you and just kind of like cut corners, kind of literally, as you'll see, to get away with cheaper costs. So hopefully this shows. But this is a brief video showing kind of what it was like to go through websites in 2018 before it became normal to have, not asshole practices. And you can see there are just so many pop-ups that people would probably get fatigued and may even accidentally agree to something, or just like they can't actually reach something because they didn't fill out all of these different forms. And that's extremely frustrating as a user. And it's because they just want to like get your attention or get your information. So if you see this in a site, it's probably better to just avoid it. Let's go back to the slides. And there's still lots of sites that do this today. And I think one of the sites that does this, or one of the types of sites that does this the most, in my opinion, is news publications. Like every time you want to read an article, it's like they spam you with things about having ad blockers or not being subscribed or getting subscribed or joining newsletters. And I don't know. I feel like it should be clear now that it's not going to work on people, and people know that this is awful and annoying. Also, here are some examples of scam sandwiches. So you can see in the top picture that they look like normal, like great sandwiches and wraps. But then in the second pictures, you can see that actually like there's much less than you're expecting. You expect this to be a whole wrap, and it's just like it has these nice angle cuts on the side, but they're actually cut here instead of and it's not one continuous wrap. And here you can see they just put like that tiny line of meat to like pretend that it had more content than it does. And that's a way of manipulating your expectations based on vision. You don't think that you have to open a sandwich to check how much of the ingredients are in there if you can see it from the side already. Same with here. You can see that these sides are stuff, and it like the line even almost can flow into each other from side to side. Like you don't expect that to be discontinuous like it is. And that's terrible practice. Something else that's really terrible practice, in 2015, Ubisoft has had hidden text in their emails, so they would keep sending you many, many emails. Then you can unsubscribe unless you figure it out by highlighting it, because they put white on white text for unsubscribing, and that's just so awful, because you wouldn't expect that, right? You would expect there to be nothing in that text. You don't expect there to be that bad of contrast between text, and you expect that you can trust a company or trust a product that you're using. And that's just awful, as you're going to hear me say repeatedly through this lecture. Here are other things, like in the App Store, you can just tap and it'll say free in large words. I think this one is also like, they claim that they're free. This is before more regulations about them saying that they have in-app purchases, but they'll all say that they're free, but they're not actually free. That's really frustrating. I think now in the app stores, they still say free with in-app purchases, but you never know the degree to which there are in-app purchases. You don't know if like it's basically unusable without them, or if it's only a little bit of the content. It's very difficult to screen for these kind of manipulative designs, and yeah, it's basically made to trick you so that you're more likely to download stuff and more likely to pay for it. And the reason why the App Store isn't helping with that is because they probably get cut some of the revenue from it, and it's just not a good thing. And be careful of it and don't do it. So yeah, there's a simple reasons why brands employ dark UX tactics. They want to nudge the user towards or away from certain actions in order to drive sales, gather more data, or bump up their email list. Like you saw that they keep trying to get into your mailing list, keep trying to prevent you from unsubscribing. Like they make you think things are free, or hide that you're subscribing stuff, which is driving sales. They're gathering more data by having all those pop-ups about your information in order for you to see anything, and acting like it's taking a super long time for the actual content of the page to load. That was this one, in case you needed a review. And yeah, it's just, there are ways to drive sales, gather more data, and pump up people's email lists without dark UX tactics. And in the long run, this is just going to make people frustrated. And I'm so glad that these days it's more accepted to have good ethics in design, and it's even more enforced. But we need to keep moving in that direction. So yeah, from nuisance to regret. There are ethical concerns, like real ethical concerns, other than people getting tricked to pay more money than they meant to, or getting less than they thought they were getting. There are a little bit more concrete reasons that these things are unethical, other than manipulation, or it's manipulation to a bad extent. It's doing these things, driving sales, gathering more data, and bumping up email lists in a way that actually hurts the users rather than just inconveniencing them. So this first example is about Instacart. Basically, it sets the automatic tip as only 5%. And they make it so it's hard for people to see that, even though people normally tip 20%. So it's like underpaying the Instacart workers automatically. And a lot of people don't see it because they try to make it sneaky and so that you don't see it. There's a whole article about this. Yeah, super interesting. I don't know what those things were at the bottom. I'm just not gonna go over that. Yeah, I really suggest you read it. Super interesting, super sad, actually, and a super good example of what not to do. Another thing that's bad about design is that digital blackface in 2014, they put this like snap filter that basically gave people the appearance of being Black, and that's just not okay for so many reasons. Yeah, I feel like it's very easy to avoid doing this. Just don't be racist in your designs or in your life, and be anti-racist. That is my thought on that. There's also, I think, an article about this in the slides for you to go over if you're more interested in what actually happened there. The Google Photos algorithm, when it was really bad, was also kind of racist. As you can see, it put Black or photos of Black people in a category called gorillas. Pretty bad. Luckily, it's not like that anymore, as far as I know. Again, there's an article about it. These are just examples of how design can go badly, how products can go badly with dark or bad design principles. These things are all very avoidable. Just don't be an asshole. And then Facebook had emotional manipulation. I feel like this is relatively high profile. When it happened, there's also an article about this. I'm trying to keep the lecture a little bit shorter since I know Howie's lecture this week was quite long. So yeah, you can read about this. Yeah. So I also wanted to get to kind of the more meaningful content. So on a high level, what does this actually mean for designers? I know I've been saying like, oh, these things are avoidable, you shouldn't do them, like it's unethical. There are obvious reasons why it's annoying and terrible, but what is the practicality of discussing this? So as a UX designer, you have a responsibility towards both the brand and the user. It's your job to create unbeatable user experiences that are transparent and unambiguous, making it easy for the user to take the course of action they had indeed set out to take, because you also want to reduce customer service, because that makes people annoyed, and especially if they can't get help. You want it to be transparent because people want to trust the companies that they support. You want it to be unambiguous so that people can do what they want to do without getting frustrated, because you want people to return and be happy with what you're using. But yeah, we are not doing this live, but something you should consider for yourself, or what are some dark patterns in your own daily interactions in daily lives that you've noticed. I feel like 3 minutes is a good amount of time, because I think you'll start realizing by the end of it that you've probably interacted with quite a few. But yeah, phones are designed to be addicting. A lot of apps are designed to increase your usage of the phone, increase how much time you spend on it, how much you prioritize it, everything. And everything about the design, as Fox will talk about as well, is to make it addictive so that you stay on it. It's kind of dark design because it's manipulative, but that is up for interpretation. Another thing that's kind of manipulative that I don't think is in the slides is that supermarkets, especially large chain supermarkets, are deliberately disorganized to make you, or deliberately organized to be disorganized to make you stay in the store longer and look for things. And then while you're looking for things, you'll be more likely to buy stuff. And things like store orientation in general, not just in grocery stores or other stores, very strategically planned so that you maximize your time there and you'll buy as much as possible. And that's also something super interesting to look into. So Here's a super great resource about designing ethically. It's called Dear Design Student. We can open it and take a look at it. Basically, it has tons of articles here. And you can read through this, but it's just in general like a great handbook and a great way to think about designing in general. So yeah, I think this first line is super important in the kind of note that I'm going to leave you on. So a designer is first and foremost a human being. You should make stuff that you know that you want. You should do stuff for the benefit of humanity and for others. And yeah, stay compassionate, and hopefully that will drive great design. And having compassion, empathy, and respect for ethics, and just being human will make for some great designs. And yeah, that's it. Have a great weekend and week. Yeah. Bye.